Is that Sissio or the Times Theater?
Times.
Oh, cool.
Awesome.
Okay, hold on.
Call to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
National Hispanic Heritage Month is September 15th through October 15th. Hold on, I gotta find the proclamation.
Should be.
Did I press it? No, oh, there we go.
Yeah.
That's it. Sunset Empire Park and Recreation District Proclamation. We are recognizing the month of September 15th through October 15th as National Hispanic Heritage Month, known as Mes de Herencia Hispana, for the Sunset Empire Park and Recreation District. Whereas National Hispanic Heritage Month, or Mes de Herencia Hispana, is celebrated nationwide from September 15th through October 15th each year. This observation started in 1968 as Hispanic Heritage Week, and whereas the term Hispanic or Latinx refers to a person of Cuban, Mexican, Puerto Rican, South or Central American, or other Spanish culture or origin, who can be of any race, any ancestry, or any ethnicity. And whereas the United States has always drawn its strength from the contributions of a diverse people, and the Sunset Empire Park and Recreation District community is no exception. And whereas National Hispanic Heritage Month is a time to recognize the contributions made and the important presence of Hispanic and Latinx Americans to the United States. And whereas Hispanic Americans have played a prominent and important role in our national heritage, and our Hispanic American residents lift our communities and our economy as entrepreneurs, executives, small business owners, and in countless other roles and opportunities. And whereas a significant segment of the more than 37,000 people living in Clatsop County are Hispanic, 9.5% according to Census Bureau. And whereas we, the Sunset Empire Park and Recreation District, honor the rich heritage of our Hispanic community, now therefore be it resolved by the Sunset Empire Park and Recreation District that September 15th through October 15th is recognized as National Hispanic Heritage Month in the Sunset Empire Park and Recreation District, and we call upon all public officials, district employees, residents, and guests to observe this month with appropriate ceremonies, activities, and programs as they share in the special annual tribute by learning and celebrating the generations of Hispanic and Latino Americans who have positively influenced and enriched our nation and community.
Thank you.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
Do you have one for me to sign in here, I swear? Yes. Oh.
That'd be great.
I'm trying to do. All right. Declaration of potential conflict of interest. Kyle.
No.
Sue.
None.
Mike.
None, I don't believe.
Celeste. Try again.
Sorry, none?
Okay. Still employed by the Seaside School District for whatever that entails. Recognition of the SEPRD Employee of the Month for September in Mackenzie Greenwell, who is not currently with us. Mackenzie is our Employee of the Month. Mackenzie has been with the district for about 1.5 years, primarily working as an assistant preschool teacher in the koala classroom. Most recently, she has also added summer camp and the after-school program to her list of positions and youth programs. Mackenzie has been such an important part to the youth programs team and has offered a great deal of experience and know-how in the field. We think that what we appreciate most about Ms. Mackenzie is the patience and compassion she brings to every kiddo interaction. She takes the time to teach, to show, and to help kiddos grow through each experience and challenge they face. She genuinely understands the intricacies of their development and meets them where they're at with empathy. Ms. Mackenzie is always up for a challenge, is invested in improving our programs and filling in the gaps wherever and whenever needed. Stepping up to fill big shoes in summer camp and the after-school program was a big task. She took it on with positivity and determination, which has been instrumental in keeping things moving in the right direction. Thank you to Mackenzie for all she does to keep our programs and kiddos moving forward, and I know that my kids love her. So thank you, Mackenzie. Public comment?
I don't see anyone here.
Would anybody like to offer public comment? Do we have anybody online?
Sure. Don't have anybody online except for Celeste.
Perfect. I didn't see any correspondence in the packet. Did anything come in since?
Nope.
Perfect.
No correspondence.
Approval of board meeting minutes from August 22nd and September 6th.
Madam Chair, are you seeking motion for both at the same time? Or
I would do one and then the other.
Okay.
But let's discuss August 22nd first. Any questions, comments, concerns?
I had no concerns with the minutes of August 22nd.
Me neither.
I'm good.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank
Aye.
you, Sue. All in favor, signify aye. Opposed, nay. Kyle?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Celeste?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, minutes from September 6th. Comments, questions, concerns?
I move approval of the September 6th.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sue. All in favor, signify aye. Opposed, nay. Kyle?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Celeste?
She's there somewhere.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Moving right along. Financials from August 2023. Go ahead, Sue.
Actually,
Which is good. That's
I mean,
not negative.
No, because so first of all, I'm just kind of rebounding with a family illness regarding my sister's health. So I actually went in and talked to Skylar, and there's a lot of things that I'm comfortable with. So I'll just simply summarize with, can we just get a minor review of some of the numbers regarding, like special events, 25.33% and 45.06% regarding, so on the down toward SE, special events, just clarification of what those numbers are referencing.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
clear as mud, or?
No, you got it.
No, the
Okay.
bulk of that's gonna be, just because, we have the farmer's market at the beginning, so a lot of the funding does go into that.
Right.
So, but we can get a better breakdown of it.
But up above, Sue, if I might add something, Chris, the special events were way up on our revenue too, so I think that
Right.
the expenses are kind of in line with the revenue.
So pretty much what my comment is really that, is these numbers also correspond to a lot of positive things that we have happening, a lot of upfront costs, but, if somebody was walking in saying, okay, you're supposed to be at 16.98%, why are you at this percentage? And I want the public to be aware that we are aware of those numbers and there's a reason for it, and please be rest assured that those are in good hands and positive circumstances. This is a good thing,
No, that's a.
rather than, you just, didn't look.
I mean, if you look, anytime you take in money, and spend money, it's gonna be ins and outs, and they're gonna hopefully be fairly matched. Aquatics is up, good job, guys.
Yeah. Nice.
Community center is up, special events is way up. I mean, good stuff.
Well, the chalk art, what else did,
Farmers
say?
Farmers market.
Turkey trot.
Yeah, we have a
Fun
couple of
time.
big things coming up.
Yeah, so it's exciting.
Fall's a good event season.
Our Run for Change, the
Okay.
5K in August as well.
I mean, all these things that we were thinking maybe we wouldn't repeat next year, and look at the public support
Yeah.
and how well things went, so that's exciting.
Mike, do you have any questions? You look like you're pondering.
Just on the check registry.
Okay, go for it.
I was just curious, we wrote 2 checks for the identical amount to Convergent, our new contractor for the fire suppression system. I was just wondering how we wrote 2 checks for the same amount. Was there some kind of payment schedule that we were hearing to?
Do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Okay. Remember to move up closer this time.
Thank you.
I got you, Mike. So conversion, we do have one that we had to reverse the payment, so that's why there's gonna be 2. It was from the issue we had with Umpqua. They tried to cash one, they got in before we could
So you had to
get them.
reissue it.
Exactly.
Okay, I was wondering.
Yeah, there were,
I didn't see the other one voided, but.
yeah, next month you're gonna see a couple more just because we had some timing issues with those. It was just kind of
Yeah.
unavoidable and,
Well, it wasn't a check to the state or anything.
no, thankfully.
Well, and
Sorry. 1 second.
Thank you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but this is for a different service
Yeah,
rather than the
it's,
fire alarm system, because
oh,
we
yeah.
hadn't awarded the contract to them
Right.
during the month. of
Oh, they haven't.
No, this was
Yeah, we're using them for some other.
You know, this was just from August.
yeah, this would have been, I think, more of the fire extinguisher.
Yeah.
portion.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
so I'm curious about Manage My Market. What is that?
So that is a program for the farmers market. They, you're able to invoice all the vendors in there. We can actually have them pay through there. It goes through Square and directly into our account. So let's say they didn't bring their checkbook that day, they can actually just have us deduct it from them. And it also is able to track all of their own actual farmers market stuff too. So like Zoe would be able to talk a little bit more about that, but they can apply to be a part of the market through there. They can actually show everything that they've got available. So it just really helps them kind of actually, like it says, manage the whole farmers market.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, and that's the yearly cost to do it. So we don't have any other costs outside of that for that one.
Any other questions on financials?
Just one, youth center, materials and supplies. Last line on the page.
Yeah, it is higher right now. We're gonna kind of, it's that start of the year, we do end up buying a lot more because they're replacing so much and then kind of has to get stretched throughout the remaining part of the year.
So it's just seasonality of
Yeah,
expenses.
exactly.
Okay.
You start the year out, you replace everything that kind of went through the prior year and then summer and.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, sure thing.
Quick question, I'm just seeing the checks to the Treasury Department, and is that to clear up the issues that we experienced?
No, so that's gonna be, it's starting to report this way. These are the EFT payments that we make every, payroll process.
Oh, every
It's
payroll,
actually
okay,
starting to
great.
report those on here now. So those
Okay,
are all,
great.
you'll see those every single month.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
No. I would move we accept the finances for August.
Thanks, Mike. Do you have a second?
Second?
Thanks, Sue. You're on a roll.
Aye.
Yes, I am.
All in favor, signify aye. Opposed, nay. Kyle. I'm gonna stop starting with you. Sue.
Did you say aye?
Yeah.
I missed that.
Just a troublemaker.
I guess, but aye.
Celeste.
Aye.
Aye. Staff presentation from Lindsay and Carolyn. You're up. Hey, that wasn't that long. That was like 12 minutes. Lindsay, do you mind if I stand? I don't want to.
No, go ahead.
Celeste, can you see that?
Yep, I'm good.
Okay, I'm gonna admit Chris, who's just here for a later part of the meeting. And we'll go to presenter view. Maybe? Yes?
Good job.
All right. Lindsay, just let me know when you wanna roll forward.
All right, well, this is kind of just some stuff I put together from aquatics.
Roll forward.
So a little bit about me, my name is Lindsay Wolf. I've been with the district for 8 years. I've been in the aquatic coordinator position for 2. In 2022, I obtained my LGIT. So that is a lifeguard instructor trainer. So now we have the ability to train other trainers within our district. So we're not having to travel so far to get recertified and certify new teachers to teach. I got my EMT in 2023. I've been a volunteer firefighter for 8 years now. And in 2021, I got an excellence in aquatic programming from the ORPA. So these are our numbers for swim lessons. This was still kind of getting back from COVID numbers, and also staffing. So you'll see some of them are a little lower than they should be, but they are growing tremendously. And our instructors right now are great, and we're actually able to get our numbers all back up, so we're really excited about that. Do you guys have any questions on this?
I do. So what is your numerical goal? What are you trying to get it up to?
I mean, I would like to have in each session, I would like to see more of this 160-ish number every time. We do also, of course, it's the November, December ones are always going to be a little lower because you got those holidays, and a lot of parents just want to take those months off, which is totally understandable. But we run swim lessons 5 days a week now, which we were only able to do it, 2 or 3 days a week before. So we're up to 5 days a week. We have more classes available. We're still going through a little bit of staffing challenges through summer and through winter seasons and how many staff we have, but it's improving tremendously, and I see these numbers growing next time.
What's the maximum number you can have?
It depends on how many teachers we have in the water at once.
If you have the teachers you want, what would the 163, is it higher than 163?
Yeah, I think this summer we were actually running 2 instructors at once, so that's 12 kids in the water. We were up to 180, I think, was our busiest one so far.
So annually, you want to train how many kids to swim?
All of them. I don't have a number for that.
Well, you've got 573, 526. What was 2019? Was it 600 or 800?
It was, so 2019 and 2020 is going to be a little bit lower than that because of the COVID.
Okay.
So, but normally it does run around this area. So we are finally starting to jump back to our normal.
Well, and that's not necessarily that we are training that many kids, correct? Because people sign up for multiple, like the same kids sign up for multiple sessions.
Yeah, so they go through level 1 through 6, and they just kind of keep going through, and then eventually, hopefully, they get to swim team. You know, we have private lessons too that kids are also getting involved in, and learning quicker with that 5-day-a-week option.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So we have Seaside Swim Team back now. We just wanted to say Mike Caddy was great. We will miss him greatly, but he's on to bigger and better things and enjoying some vacations and doing some fun stuff. But when he left, we hired on Megan McEwen to teach silvers and Amanda Browning to teach bronze. So we've already started this, and the numbers are pretty much staying the same, if not growing. And then we've also already had a little swim meet in Astoria, which was really fun for the kids. So our goal is to do about 2 a year. Our water fitness classes are all back in action now after COVID and everything. We have, the list of current classes here. We have Deep Wave, which is our new program, and we have Waste Away, which is also new. It is a deep water exercise. So instead of using the shallow end, you're in the deep end the whole time, kind of doing, it's a different kind of workout, different muscle work.
I was envisioning that we turn the pool into a wave pool somehow.
I know. Yeah, and then we also have some classes we're planning on bringing back soon. Photo Fit, Aqua Circuit, and then hopefully something on Saturdays in the near
Oh, good.
future.
Let me know, I'll be there.
Okay. Alrighty, new in the pool, we have a new climbing wall. That was put in last shutdown, and it's been great. Kids are loving it. We have a new little zip line, rope swing zip line, but it's really cool because it's actually in the shallow end. So those kids who aren't able to pass the swim test yet actually have something fun and exciting to do, because we have those basketball hoops and stuff like that, but, you know, it's hard to find stuff that you can have in the shallow end without a level of water you need. So, that's been great. The kids are loving that. Open swims have been going great with everything. We still have our regular rope swing that we've had. We have a new timing system now, which has been great. I mean, you can also tend to that for swim meets. It's been awesome to see all the splits and the times of each lane. And then we have new diving blocks coming very soon. So those will be exciting.
For the climbing wall, my child would like to request a bell.
Oh, that's a good idea. I like that.
In your timing system, are the new diving blocks going to be incorporated into the timing system?
Do you know?
They are separate.
They're
Yeah.
separate, okay. But you have pads on the wall that stop the clock?
We do not have touch
No
pads.
pads.
So there's,
We have Bluetooth handheld timing devices that start with the starter's gun and end with the timer's
click.
stopping.
Okay.
So it's semi-automatic,
Okay.
but it's tied to the display.
And then just a few highlights. Our open swim holiday schedules are back, so when there's a holiday schedule, we now are having an open swim on that day because the kids don't have school, so we want to get them to have some time to swim and kind of play around. We're open on Saturdays now, and that also includes an open swim time from 3 to 5. And then during summer break and winter break and spring break, we have open swims Monday through Friday from 1 to 3. So we're having a lot more open swims now. We have a new aquatic supervisor, Ashley Wolf. She's been with the district for 5 years. She's taken completely over the swim lesson program, and she's doing an amazing job. Megan and I both obtained our LGI certification in 2022. So Megan has been helping me lead in services and staff training. It's been working out good. So I'm going to turn it over to Coach Carolyn now, and she's going to tell you a little bit about her private lesson program.
Can I do it from my chair?
Can you step a little closer just so
You can bring your-
because he's got to be able to hear you.
Yeah, that's fine.
You can bring the chair up if you'd like to sit.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
I've done a lot on ducks. That was nice little bit.
Do you need, do you want me to leave this up? or-
You can leave that up, that's fine. Yeah, I'll address my remarks to the board. I just write them out so I can remember everything I'd like to say. Well, first, let me introduce myself. I'm Carolyn Heyman, and probably better known to those who haven't met me as Coach Carolyn. I started work at SEPRD in May of 2021, right after we resumed aquatics programming. And prior to working for the district, I taught overseas and in the greater Portland area for 25 years. I hold current credentials right now as a U.S. swim coach and OSAA for high school. And I've also raised my own 4 children in the sport, 3 of whom gone on to compete collegiately for Yale, Carnegie Mellon, and Johns Hopkins. In my short time with SEPRD, I've taught over 1,200 hours of private lessons. I've also developed seasonal conditioning clinics for our first responders in the spring and for our high school athletes in the fall. Lindsay just reported my fiscal numbers for 2022, the 480 lessons. And if we look for the start of this fiscal year, we've already had a 67% jump in demand for private lessons to start this fiscal year. I sold out every lesson slot in July and August. The main reasons for this included how easy it is to book a lesson through a software portal I developed before I came to the district. I also work during what are commonly called dead pool hours, or the midday, when there are no other lessons that are offered. And I have a very high retention rate and word of mouth referrals. I'm not now actually teaching the siblings and in some cases the parents of the local kids who started with me 2 years ago. I teach competitive swimmers who travel to Seaside from the greater Portland and Vancouver areas to take technical instruction from me. We would call them sports tourists in our mission statement. The highest level of competitions for swimmers in the 11 to 14 age group is the Western Age Group Zone Championships, which is the opportunity for our Oregon All-Stars to compete against their peers from the 11 Western states, including California and Arizona. And I had 5 athletes in my lesson program this summer named to the Oregon team. But the larger demographic that I serve reflects a broader cross-section of our community who fall outside of group lessons, and that includes adult non-swimmers, fire department and Coast Guard staff and recruits, high school varsity athletes, children with differentiated learning styles, and also kids who are missing the skills to place into their group lessons with their peers. Learning to swim can happen at any age. When I started coaching Seaside High School, many of the swim team kids like Elliot Ousley, Justin Halleck, Logan Dennis, Everett Rollins, Taryn Shea, lifeguarded and taught swimming lessons too. This summer, both Mason McCullough and Logan worked as beach lifeguards, and Jackson Strimmerhorn deployed as full-time with the Seaside Fire Department. Because our first responders, beach rescue, and Coast Guard require swimming as a core competency, they are dependent on us and our pipeline. If our kids don't grow up swimming, expecting to move from lessons to swim team to high school, and swim team onto the varsity, we will not have the workforce that we've come to rely on for staffing, and a dwindling pool of qualified recruits to meet community's first response needs. Just to man a rescue watercraft like a jet ski, a firefighter must first be able to swim 200 yards in less than 6 minutes, and to make water rescues, the standard is 550 yards in less than 10. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, USA Swimming and the USA Swimming Foundation introduced the Community Impact Grant Program to increase competitive opportunities by funding USA Swimming clubs in new communities. Grant awards are for up to $5,000. They're renewable for 3 years and are open to registered USA Swim clubs that, I'll quote, partner with a school, municipality, or other public entity to create new or expand opportunities in communities lacking USA Swimming programming. Every year, Seaside High School has to try to compete at districts against kids with the advantage of swimming year-round for USA programs in Newport and Lincoln City. If SEPRD is to rebuild the swimming pipeline, we need a team and a better alignment with group lessons that feed it. At the board's direction, I'd be delighted to work with Skylar on a presentation of next steps for a later board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Boy, this really, just today I've had a conversation, first of all, with your husband, but second of all, with the previous coach for the high school team, way back when my daughter swam, about an interest with resurrecting or re-resurrecting the North Coast Swim Club. And the conversation is sort of in Astoria's ballpark right now, but I find it fascinating that there were some parents, because I was one of the people that, as you know, I helped unofficially officiate at that swim meet most recently that was held in Astoria. And there was a lot of interest from parents on how to go forward to make a team. And a year-round team, the previous coach, Paul Gascoigne, was there and he expressed interest. I've had a couple conversations with local people here that did electronic timing, and they have expressed support. So I think there is a buzz, a very low-level buzz right now, and I'm excited to see that coming from Astoria. But I think we just need to give it a little nudge to bring it back here. So I'm glad to hear this conversation starting, and I think the fact that we are moving forward with the blocks and whatever timing system we might eventually have, and with your expertise as well, Carolyn, I mean, how exciting is our future here? So, I mean, it was an interesting conversation over the last few weeks, that there's some low-level interest that even is existent to move forward and do something. So, I don't know how we nudge that.
Did you swim for it, Carolyn?
Who did I swim for?
Mm-hmm.
You want the honest truth?
Yeah.
I didn't swim.
You never swam?
I swam
Competitively?
I swam competitively for Parkway Swim Club till I was 12. And then I went to a prep school that was a 7 to 12 year, 7th grade to 12th grade, they didn't have a pool.
Oh, no.
So I not only did not swim in high school, I did not swim in college.
Wow. The story is amazing. And you had me at USA Swimming, because these guys know I'm all in. I have a granddaughter who just swam at Futures this summer, and she's a few seconds off of JNAS, and I'm waiting to go. But if we have a USA Swim team here, I'll be an official. I'll be involved, and I want to support whatever the district needs to do to make that happen, because it's a really important component of the community.
We should explain that the other person in this discussion is my husband, who is the president of the Cannon Beach Fire Board, who was at a meeting today with Catherine and Sue, because Cannon Beach will be moving to full-time lifeguarding on its beaches. That's the direction they want to take.
It's crazy.
And staffing is key to that. If you don't have swimmers in the pipeline confident enough to swim, you don't have staffing.
No,
And he is also a USA swimming official who works our high school meets. I'm a volunteer coach with the team. And so we were proponents for the timing system, and you asked about touch pads. It wasn't warranted because we weren't doing those kinds of meets yet. We have to grow it. But we do have a semi-automatic timing system that works very, very well.
So what will it take to bring a swim team to CSUN?
We'll have to start that discussion.
Yeah, because the other thing is the pool and
Pool
the shallow end.
isn't qualified.
You know, and Astoria, that's why the program, my daughter swam competitively through college and started the master's program. And unfortunately, in her adult years as a teacher, she was not welcome in the pool, and so she's let it go. And that's been quite shocking to me. But the bottom line is, when I was there, and I don't really am not interested in repeating myself, but there was interest expressed because the previous coach and me, we were on deck, not dressed officially because we were making sure that we were not representing anything official yet, but there were parents that expressed real interest in how to get things going. And the manager of the pool was interested as well. I spoke with, your husband this morning about this, so I think it's exciting to consider that I think there's an audience that may not even really know here what potential there is. And I think that's a dialogue that needs to maybe go forward.
I read some data some time ago that the market penetration of swimming into certain communities is much lower than other communities. And when I say that, I'm specifically looking at the Hispanic community. Their rate of learning to swim is not nearly as high as other parts of the community. So as we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month next month, is there a way that we can attract some of our Hispanic neighbors to engage their kids in the swimming program?
Probably take a bilingual instructor at least, I guess.
Well, the other piece, don't we still bring in all the third graders?
Yeah, I think it's different grades for each school. Lindsay can probably speak to more of that, but I think it's third grade for Seaside School District, and there's some other grades.
Yeah, sometimes it's third and fourth, sometimes some schools just do third.
So are you required to know how to swim when you graduate from high school? Is that part of
No.
See, where I grew up, you had to know how to swim. You couldn't graduate unless you knew how to swim.
Wow.
And
I've never heard that.
Yeah.
And
Where did you grow up?
Minnesota, 10,000 lakes. Everybody had to know how to swim.
Yeah. Wow.
But the water here is a lot riskier than a lake.
Yeah.
You know, the ocean and the rivers are much more dangerous than swimming in a lake. So
Well,
it would
that's-
seem to me that it would be much more important to engage the community into swimming than.
Oh, I'm a huge believer, Lindsay can attest the many times that I forced my children to suffer through this. They were like, I don't want to, I don't care, it's a life skill, you're gonna
Well,
learn,
and
this is
when-
not optional.
When my daughter worked for the pool, she actually, over a 4th of July where both my husband at the time and I were not present, Laura had to be rescued. And that has left an impression on all of her students. And her rescue is a story in itself because it's a miracle. And and here came this wet child up to the hospital, and I gave her the biggest hug, and I was wet, and so what? But the point is that she has never forgotten that, and her lessons that she taught, she would talk about how strong swim skills are incredibly important. And I mean, you guys who worked with her would know that better than me. I'm just the parent I'm grateful my daughter is alive and well, and swimming is in her blood, and it's a little bit frustrating that, a lot of the schools who have pools have said, no, you can't get in the water with the students. But that's another story. But the point is, Laura would be the first to tout those strong swim skills, which is why I put her in swim lessons, because that ocean's in our backyard, and we need to know how to respect it and how to navigate it. And the programs here have done a great job doing that for those students. And I mean, I can't say enough good things about it to promote, strong swim skills for every individual in this community.
Kyle, to your point, we have partnered with one of our friendly agencies, Consejo Español. They submitted a grant for that purpose. They had this great idea, and actually Jenny, the executive director, her child's been a swim lesson participant with Coach Carolyn, and she was so impressed by the experience. What the grant was designed to do, if they obtain it, is to basically create a program where we have bilingual instruction that works with Coach Caroline and learns from her, and then is able to instruct our Latin community and hopefully reach them in a way that we aren't reaching them. And the grant would cover the expense for the staff time, but also probably cover a fair amount or all of the expense for participation in the program, at least for the first little while, to get us going. And we submitted a letter of support for the grant. I don't think they've heard back yet, but I think even if that grant doesn't come through, I think exploring that partnership or a partnership similar, creating something like that, a pathway for us is really important.
Great.
And you didn't mention it, but I think you should share a little bit about your work with the scholarship, with Kate's scholarship, and the work with the athletes that you're doing on that front, because I think that's really special and recognizable.
There's a picture of me up there with Carly Lockwood, and Carly was our first recipient of the Kate Bessie Scholarship Fund, the first summer that I worked for the district. I had a Down syndrome athlete on my roster. I didn't know this Down syndrome athlete until I started working, and I could work with all different skill sets that are differentiated. And when Kate saw me working with that athlete, she said, I'd like to create a scholarship so that athletes with those differentiated learning needs can get their lessons, because many times they don't make it through traditional group lessons. And so I had 2 athletes last fall that I worked with, and Carly actually participates in Special Olympics. And so that's where we get some of the word of mouth referrals, and I picked up another student.
Awesome. Are you at capacity? No. I mean, can you take on any more students? It sounds like you're like
Kyle, I did
overwhelmed.
180 hours of instruction just to start this fiscal year.
Just this week?
It's I mean, it would be hard to continue at this pace, because it's 67% higher than we were even the year before.
So do we have enough swim instructors to meet the needs of the community?
No.
So how many more do we need, or how many more hours of instruction?
That's a bigger discussion than right here.
Fair enough. Well, I was a swimmer, and that was one of the highlights in my life that I really, really enjoyed, and I supported what you're trying to do. You know, my first job was a lifeguard, and my first lifeguard job was scuba divers. So everybody was underwater. Great.
Well, and, talking about the pathway, did you learn to swim in the Seaside Pool? Yeah, so like, we grew our own for you and your sister. So that's awesome. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I would like to add some things.
Oh, go for it,
If you
Mike.
don't mind. I was a competitive swimmer for many years through high school. Ended up going to art school, no pool. But I've been catching up on my reading with the NRPA Park and Recreation magazines, and I was going to bring in the aquatic inserts from this summer. But one of the things I took away from that aquatic supplement was it was about the hiring, the hiring shortage and the problem with staffing, was that most districts are willing to pay more for hiring than they are for retention. Yes. So if we can get the right people, we need to keep the right people. But most districts in the country are willing to pay more to hire somebody than to retain them. And I think that might be important. I don't know if it helps us. We have a small community. We don't have a lot of people to draw from for different skills in many areas, probably the fire department included. I think retention, the hiring and retention is really important. I was a certified lifeguard for YMCA, Red Cross, Boy Scouts of America. I was a waterfront manager for the YMCA summer camps. I was a water safety aide and I was helping teach swimming when I was 15 and got into competitive swimming. So, but I haven't been in the pool for a couple of years. So, but I think it's an interesting
because of that history, you could survive in the pool. You could survive in the ocean, you could survive in the
Yes.
river.
You know, I remember every lesson I took when I was a kid. I didn't have kindergarten in Tennessee. They didn't have kindergarten where I lived, but I could take swim lessons when I was 6 years old. My first swim lesson. And then our school burned down and that pool went away. Very important, swim lessons.
Thank you very much. Have a
Thank you,
wonderful
guys.
night.
Thank you. Great presentation.
Yeah.
Okay. I know we have Chris and Brandon, two familiar faces for us as we move into this next discussion.
Go for it.
Okay with it?
Yep.
All right, I'll just, turn the time over to them for an update and just share that I'm very thankful. I know I know we're compensating them, but I'm still thankful for these two individuals because they're guiding us through some really challenging things, and I know it's taking some time, it's taking some resources for sure, but, without them, we'd be in a completely different position. So happy for their support and their expertise that they've lent us. So Brandon, Chris, I'm not sure who's gonna start, but feel free to take us away, and, I might suggest to, the board president that we move item C up after item A, and that way these, individuals can help us with that update, and then we can talk about Broadway Field after that.
Okay.
That's okay?
I think that's a great move, Skylar, and I actually think that coming off of hearing from Coach Carolyn and what we were talking about for aquatics, it just segues nice into the strategic plan. So Chris, if you're okay, I'll just take that bullet point.
Yep, that'll work.
Okay, great. So strategic master plan. Again, hearing the tail end of that, I didn't hear all of it, but the tail end about the aquatics and the needs, super exciting. Because that really points back to what we're trying to wrap up, the strategic master plan. So everyone wants to know about schedules. Schedule's hot and heavy. Right now, over the month of October into the first couple of weeks of November, we have two major efforts. One is to conclude all of our program efforts. So programming includes facility tours and workshops with the stakeholder group. We've sent out, as of this evening, an invite to that stakeholder group to start to actually schedule the tours and the workshops. Taking a lot of effort to get the facilities we want access to get them on board with giving flexibility, but we're there. So again, over the next month to month and a half, we're going to conclude this process. So I know Celeste, board member Celeste had mentioned some concern about board engagement and making sure that we're hearing all the voices. That time has come now. So we're excited to report that. Any questions on that? It was pretty high level. I see thumbs up. I see you, Celeste. Thank you. Okay.
So,
I think, Brandon, one of the things that I'm curious about, like, in trying to wrap my head around, and I know I expressed this previously, like, wanting to be sure that we don't end up with the same report that we already did, right? And so, and, you know, I guess I'm just gonna say out loud, for myself, what I'm really hoping is that this process will yield, like, priorities. Like, these are the top priorities identified by all the stakeholders, you know, everybody that's involved, and here are the opportunities given the spaces that we have, the buildings we have, and really put us on a path for a next step. Because I think our next step has to be to develop some resources for whatever it is going to take to build ourselves up. So that is what I'm hoping.
Yeah, no, and we heard you that you're correct, Celeste, in that we know that we did a lot of work prior on the highest and best use study of the SRC, so we're building on that, and really we're focused on the entire campus. So there's a little method to our madness. Tim Gordon, one of my teammates, counterpart on the project, we've had a lot of conversations with our other consultant group, SSC out of Orlando, and we have a plan, and I don't want to give too much of it yet, but the focus will not be on the SRC. It's going to be on the connection of the SRC So the full building, the aquatics, and really trying to tie the entire campus together. So the initial steps is reviewing the results of the community survey, which SFC is really compiled and put that together. So we're going to take that plus the vision of the district of SEPRD and develop the short-term, long-term, and immediate goals for each category, for the different departments, for each building, really laying out next steps. So.
Great, thank you, super glad to hear that.
Yep, no, it's coming, and we're excited to be there at this point.
So, a question. This is Kyle. I just want to make sure that this is not a building plan, a construction plan, a plan for the facilities that we have, and instead it's a real strategic plan that tells us, you know, who we are, not what we look like.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. We will address the needs of each built facility, of each building, but no, the focus is strategic planning, right? So it's looking at your demographics, the services you provide, making recommendations on new services, enhancing existing services, how you expand on those, how the buildings and campus can actually accommodate those things, and we tie it all together. So it's a little bit of everything, Kyle, but definitely the focus is not on like a facilities assessment.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir. No.
Anything else on that topic?
Well, so we were just talking about
We're gonna jump back. We're
Okay.
the strategic plan first.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but we would really point to the board, the little breadcrumb that I would probably throw out is aquatic center. We're very familiar with what's going on in Astoria. Our team is actually, our Scott Edwards Architecture is involved in that project, so we have some inside information there. So we understand what that means to Seaside, and then also how do you actually connect the SRC to the whole building? What's that look like in between the two spaces? Hopefully that wasn't too much, guys.
Great.
No, yeah.
Okay, good.
And that's all happening.
We're excited.
It's coming up, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Be busy.
Yeah, go ahead, if you want to skip to occupancy and share an update on the fire suppression system and the other work that we have been doing.
Brandon, if you don't mind, I'll jump in and do the fire stuff first. So one minor correction, if you don't mind making, Skylar, is let's use fire alarm replacement. Fire suppression tends to refer to the sprinklers, the fire protection in the building. And while there is some stuff that we're working and advancing on there, the number one priority that we have identified is the fire alarm replacement. So with the fire alarm replacement, we had a very successful RFP, had a number of qualified candidates, and last board meeting, we confirmed direction to move forward with Convergent for contracting. We have since had a kickoff meeting with them, and Skylar, myself, and a few others have made some comments on their contractual language, which they have already produced a revision of their contract, and we're waiting for them to confirm some last-minute terms and conditions that we wanted added back in there, some good language for the district, and we are getting closer to that milestone. So my anticipation is we should be under contract by the end of this week, which would be great, and then we already have our first on-site visit with Convergent and Inland Electric, who's a local contractor who's going to do the electrical work next Tuesday, is what we already have set up. So good advancement there on the fire alarm replacement contract. Any questions on that front?
I'm super impressed with how fast that's moving. That's awesome. I vaguely remember from our last meeting that the kind of rough ballpark timeline, big picture was like a couple months to complete. That, yeah, okay. So potentially by the end of the year?
Yeah, that's kind of the placeholder I think we all have in our head that we're kicking around, but it really is going to involve, like, you know, how much of the space are we going to be able to turn over to the contractor at any given time? And that's kind of the part, the purpose of the meeting next week that's on site is to really start to dive into the logistics and scheduling for that. So we should have a better idea of the overall duration as we get a little closer.
Yeah, so a few key milestones for the board to keep in mind is Convergent will need, as a group, including Convergent, we're going to need to permit the design. So we've got a preliminary design of spec in hand that we use in terms of the bidding process. But now Convergent will actually need to permit that work. You go into the building department and permit it. And then there's a little bit of coordination. As you can imagine, we've got an existing alarm in place that's functioning. And we need to cut over to the new one, so that takes a little bit of coordination with the building department, fire marshal's department, so that all parties involved knows, the game plan, if you will. And then also, the work will be somewhat intrusive. And so with regards to the strategic plan and, future improvements that hopefully come to the SRC, there's coordination and discussions with what we would refer to as the patchback, right? We're hoping they can use it as pathways and conduits for this work, but until they dive in, we don't really know. So we're geared up and ramped to assist in that conversation, how they put things back together, where maybe we, put in some new finishes, or where maybe we just hold off and wait for a later date time.
So I have to bring up something that I don't totally understand, but I think for the public, we need a clarifying statement that evidently there is an illusion that the building where we are housing children right now is unsafe because of the older fire system. Can you just clarify that it is safe for our youth to be there? And speak to that, and just clarification for those people who may have heard or may be construing that something is unsafe. Please help.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Let's make that clarification, right? A couple points to help address that concern. You're in the building in a limited capacity, right? And that capacity is communicated and clarified with the fire marshal, the fire department, and the building department. And all parties agree that, the building isn't currently safe to be used as you're doing it now, right? You wouldn't be allowed that. The key takeaway there is what Chris was actually referring to in the adjustment in the agenda was the building has an active and functioning fire safety system, right? And so you have a functioning fire suppression system. The sprinkler system in the building works, and that is the primary line of defense when it comes to life safety. Okay, so we know we've dove in on that system. We know where it sits in terms of its capacity and its current function, and it's in a good spot. The fire alarm is functioning and working, so you have an whole system in place. It's just that the fire alarm doesn't meet current code. So if we were constructing, a brand new building today and building this facility as a new rec center, it would have a much different system in terms of the fire alarm that's a little bit more robust. And so that, I think, is the clarifier. The building is safe. You're actually going through extra precautions and limiting its use. You're coordinating with the fire marshal, the fire department, the city. And you have systems in place. We're just bringing the systems that are efficient up to compliance.
And that's so that we can expand our use of the building.
But to be clear, Brandon, it is not us that determines whether the building is safe or not. It is the fire marshal and the building department, right? They're the ones that make that determination, not us.
Correct, and your design professionals in charge, right? That's key here. You have gone out and looked at the services of the design professional, Scott Edwards Architect. So we inherently become the architect of record for that facility. So we've reviewed it. We've gone back and we've gone to the building department, fire marshals, and communicated how it was used prior, how you intend to use it in the future, and what you're doing in between, correct? So it's not the district that determines a safe facility.
Thank you.
Kyle, you didn't just go say it's safe, Skylar, you didn't just decide.
Right,
So,
well, we're not experts on what a safe building is, so that's determined by the fire marshal and the building department.
And the relevance here is the application for an occupancy change has been approved by the fire marshal and the building inspector.
Yes.
So, the district has received the plan that is stamped by both of those entities. The only thing right now that is preventing you from having a certificate of occupancy in the building is the improvements to the fire alarm and also the conditional use permit that is changing the building from a middle school to a recreation center.
Okay.
So it's a planning concern, which really deals with everything outside of the building, if that makes sense.
Hey, Brandon, I could be off base on this, but isn't it true that often when a building changes hands or you're changing use, that this is pretty customary to do to try to pull things up to code?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. So, I mean, typically, anybody can go buy an existing building. You're buying that building as is, normally. The purchase of the building doesn't require you to do anything to bring the building up to conformance. The trigger is when you go to do work in the building and you go to use the building in a different way it was originally intended. So these are all conditions that SEPRD inherited in the purchase of the building from the district. Now that the Parks District, SEPRD wants to use the building different, we're having to bring some things up into conformance. It's all normal, but the trigger is the change of use, not the acquisition of the building.
So Skylar, this alarm system will allow us to make more use of the building than we're making use of it now. Is that what I understand?
Yes, I think it's one of the conditions that we know that we have to meet before we can get more use out of the building. Not just in youth programs, but in other parts of the building that we're not able to use right now.
So this 2 or 3 month time frame, then are we starting to plan for additional uses in the later half of the year?
Like later half of the fiscal year?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of that planning has already happened, at least at the staff level. Now, I don't think we are prepared for the financial implications of transitioning like our fitness room over there or our group fitness classes or maybe our pottery studio. But we have conceptually at least planned out what that means. I think there's other hurdles that we will need to cross over outside of the fire alarm replacement that we need, that we'll need to do. And we're actually working on those with Brandon and Chris, some other things that I would consider not as substantial of an investment to make, but we anticipate that will be needed before we can occupy the building in the way that we want to. So.
Yeah, that's correct, Skylar. There's some additional work, additional firewalls that we need added, some new doors that have fire protection ratings on them. So there's some additional scope that has been designed already by SEA, and I've been working on getting some budgetary numbers in for that work. But yes, this is one of the things that need to be corrected in order to utilize the building like we intend to.
And I just want you to say, right now, it's safe for our children to be in that building right now as we go through those changes. Because evidently that seems to be something coming from the community through some misunderstanding. So we'll always keep our children safe, period. And all of us here every single one of us in this room and on video are going to stand behind that statement.
Yeah.
My children go there.
I know.
We don't want anyone to have any concerns, and it's been stated for a couple of years now how safe the building really is as it's being used, and for anyone to say anything counter that would be incorrect.
Right.
So is the city applying the code for a middle school or for a recreation center?
Correct. The Yeah, so the application for the change of use outlines how the building, with some minor improvements, as Chris was referencing, would be compliant as a recreation facility. Hopefully that makes sense, Kyle.
Well, it just seemed odd that a recreation facility would require fire doors and firewalls.
Yeah, no, good question. The recreation center actually it's a combination of three assemblies, right? A, occupancy, which is assembly occupancy, E for education, and then B for office. And so those require to be separated. When it was originally a school, it was all E, right? So now that you're using the building, again, a little differently in certain spaces, we have to come back and tell the building department how many people would be in those spaces based on their use, and then how do you safely separate them. To go back to safety, we've proven that the building meets egress requirements. The building has sufficient exits, right? There's enough pathways to get out of the building in the event of emergency. You've got a lot of the fire separation in place. We're actually just connecting the dots. You know, we're trying to draw a continuous line and plan through the building. Now you have kind of a segmented line. So doors and some additional walls create that continuous line. What else could I feel like I'm missing a key point there?
No, that explained it. Thanks, Brandon.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, and it's current code. I mean, it's today's relevant code, so hopefully that helps.
So okay, now I'm a little more confused. So our alarm system is an A occupancy alarm system? Or is it an A occupancy in the A section of the building and a B occupancy alarm system in the B section of the building?
Yeah, no, you're mixing them a little bit, right? The alarm system is for the entire building throughout.
Right.
It's much like your fire suppression system. It's going to be throughout the building. It provides a certain layer of protection throughout, right? And it has to function as one system because the building is operating as one building, right?
Even though there's multiple uses in the building.
Say that again?
Well, even though the building is segmented into multiple uses, then, our conditional use permit is based on those multiple uses, but the alarm system is an overarching alarm system that provides the highest possible protection of all three of those uses that you mentioned.
Yeah, so the tricky part here is we're dealing with a planning issue versus a life safety issue, right? So life safety is fire alarms, fire suppression, egress, and exits. Planning is tied to use, right? We develop an occupant load, how many people would be in the building based on use, but you have to kind of separate mentally. There's the planning component, and then there's the fire life safety component.
Okay.
So that's why you have a plan right now that's got a stamp from the fire marshal of approval, and it's got a stamp from the building official with approval, because from a life safety standpoint, they've agreed to what we are saying the building should be viewed as, and how it should be, how it would actually be brought up to code compliance, if that makes sense.
Kyle, the interface engineering did the performance spec and the design on the fire alarm, and that is based on understanding that our the occupant load and the new classification of the areas in the building. So your fire alarm replacement will takes into account that change in occupancy already. So the fire alarm system will be designed for the intended use as stated in the conditional use permit.
Well, so what happens if we change our assembling areas or our occupancy in certain areas of the building?
Great question. So if you started redefining that separation line based on your use, you would have to go back and inform the building department of that. And potentially how you do it, where you do it in the building, you may have to actually bring in some more separation. That's why you did the highest and best use. That's why you had all the strategy and planning efforts that our group and SFA, SFC did, a year and a half, 2 years ago. So there was a lot of foresight in thinking through how we carve that building. But you're right, Kyle, if you said all of a sudden now we want to convert like a handful of classroom spaces, office spaces into like an auditorium, that would be another change of use, change of occupancy.
Okay, so if we made those changes at some time in the future, would we have to change our alarm system?
You would have to expand that system potentially into that new space. If you grew that space, you would expand into that.
Okay.
That makes sense. Yeah. You could be wholesaling a new fire alarm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great question.
Yeah, everything we do now is incremental and is through the lens of the fact that you are trying to develop a strategic plan now, right? So we're trying to do everything in a fashion that moves it forward and that we don't have to take steps backwards in the future. We're trying to limit that as much as possible.
There's a lot of electrons circulating around the nucleus right now.
So I'll go to the next bullet point. Chris, you hear that? Conditional use application. So the good news is the formal application has been submitted. It went in Monday to the Community Development Department. So right now we're waiting to hear back. Typically they do a completeness check, so they'll review the application material, make sure we've checked all the boxes and just given them enough information. They'll start producing a staff report. That staff report will come out, and then we will be looking at a planning commission hearing. So we're hopeful that we check the completeness box. A lot of times there's some pieces missing, or the department will look for more information that we don't provide. But if we can get beyond the completeness check, we should be following up with you all with the planning commission date. So that's super exciting.
Yeah, long time coming.
Yeah.
Great work.
Any questions, else? Great discussion.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Chris.
Thank
thank
you.
you for joining us.
Yeah,
See you
everybody.
next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Skylar, do you want, myself or Brandon to hold on for the Broadway Field update, or?
If you want to hang on, Brandon, you probably, I can loop you back in later. I know I sent you guys an email with some information. Celeste is going to lead a little discussion about next steps for this. But if you want to hold on, just so you're in the loop, because I think we'll need your expertise at some point on this.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and hold on.
Okay,
Yes.
thank
The
you.
one that I'll leave on that for the board is you do have, the school district was successful in obtaining an approval to do the work. So the application, the CUP application reflects that work, right? So everything that we do assumes that the school district will move forward at some point with those improvements. So if you see application material get published, you will see that softball field, you'll see the improvements they intend to make, the relocation of the Hirsch building, you'll see all that in there until we're told differently. Cool, okay. Good seeing everybody.
Have a good
Thanks,
night.
Brandon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, Celeste, take it away.
All right, I'm gonna do my best. I'm talking off the cuff and my head is a little bit foggy, but happy to answer questions. So I think all of you know that at our last board meeting, we had some concern about the notice or lack thereof regarding the delayed softball field project, which might not be a big deal, except that we have programming on that space. And so it is a big deal to us. And so we reached out asking for approved clarification that included both a written email from Skylar that I just with, and then Skylar and I attended the Seaside School District board meeting and reiterated that we want to be a good partner, but to do that we really need to have communication about and insight about what's going on. It also sort of raised some issues about how we might need to strengthen the IGA to be clear about the communication responsibility.
And so, let's see, shoot, I did not have that, Skylar, I'm not sure if you can recall. Mostly it was, I think, that we wanted more frequent IGA meetings. We wanted to be included in the contractor solicitation and engagement of the new contractor, not necessarily to vote or to have a say, but so that we can hear what's going on and hear what kind of commitments are being made around access to the building. And Chris, you might be able to help us a little bit with this. Raymond alluded to it. I should have caught this. So while Seaside School District has the go-ahead and our approval, and I think we all still stand behind this, to move ahead with this project in partnership, I don't think that limits us on asking for a level of communication to understand how it impacts our programming, what kind of staff time is required, and things like that. So we looked at strengthening the expectations in that within the IGA. I mean, I would imagine I guess that would be a question for you, Chris, is that when you have a conditional use permit and they have a go-ahead, has that train already left the station that they have?
I mean, not to my knowledge. I mean, as the property owner, I would want to know exactly what's going on. What contractor's going to be there, when they're going to be there, a rough schedule, hours of operation, as it's going to have impacts on your current operation. So that's absolutely some information that should be shared with the district in partnership with trying to accomplish a singular goal that we're all working for together. So yeah, that's information I would absolutely request of them and be a participant in those meetings.
Yeah. And so so one of the things that we found out actually during that school board meeting, it was that there was a walkthrough scheduled at the Hirsch Center building for prospective bidders to the contract. And after Skylar and I discussed, we thought it was a good idea for him to be there just to be in the loop about what went on. So he did attend that. I think we have some more information primarily about schedules and so forth. But we have an official request in to be considered. It's a little bit confusing because it's lots of different groups. There's stakeholder groups, there's the design advisory board group, there's the owners group, there's just all these different groups, and I've learned that there's a new one called the CBGC, which I assume is the general contractor, but I'm not sure what the first part means. So there's a lot of these groups that are on the Seaside School District side that are moving forward with plans, and I think we're not hearing about things until sort of after the fact, and I think there's just a lot of different channels of communication going on, and so we're hoping to consolidate that through a monthly IGA meeting.
Yeah, I think it's a good place to start. We've got to understand what it is, what their plans are, and current information, and not wait till we're reading about it in the Astorian.
Yeah. In fairness, we did discover there was some notice in July, but it was a full month after they knew that the project was delayed. And there was an email that said that the contractor had some issues, we were going to be delayed, but for sure it was not clear that the scope of delay or the total impact meant that we were delayed for a few years. So, and we lost opportunities around that. We said no to programming on the field and community partners. And so we need to just make sure that we're tracking on that communication better.
Yeah, I think having a minimum of monthly meeting with that team just to make sure that we're getting all the communication across that needs to happen is probably the easiest starting point. And Skylar, yourself, let me know if you want us to start to spearhead those efforts and kind of pulling that group together to make sure we're getting the info we need.
Yeah, I would propose that I would like to have some representation from y'all in those meetings and help. At this point, it seems that we're going to have to be the agenda setters on that because there is not a huge amount of excitement around having regular meetings. We actually had discussed doing every 2-week meetings, and they pushed back and wanted only monthly meetings. They thought it was too often. But I think we have a lot to discuss at those monthly meetings, including construction process, planned programming on the field, maintenance issues, equipment supplies. So I've already started sort of categories for a standing categories for an agenda. But I think it will fall to us to create an agenda.
Here to help, yeah, so let me know, what you've gotten so far, list of contacts, it sounds like you already have a draft agenda going, so, yeah, just offline, we can chat about next steps and getting that done.
And we did ask for representation for their board. That was part of our appeal at the actual in-person, board meeting.
Well, I'm glad we've got you on our team. So.
Yes, thank you to you and Skylar for all your work on that.
Only things I would add is that at the school board meeting last week, the school board voted on a location for softball 2024, and they voted to select the southwest corner of the field, which is where softball has played for, I think, the last 7 or 8 years. So the same location that they had played previously. However, I guess it should be mentioned that when we returfed the field this summer, that corner of the field wasn't set up for softball. So there's no softball lines. There's no pitching circle or pitching rubber. There's no home plate, and the same concerns about equity exist in that corner of the field, because the softball infield runs through the soccer and football fields where there's, lines, large lines, different colors of lines. And so there was some discussion at that meeting about how they would adjust the field and add these lines in, and I think it's been stated that adding lines in could void the warranty on the field, which is brand new, so it's not an ideal. They had to choose from 3, not great options. The other option was playing on the baseball field, which would require the baseball teams and the softball teams to share that part of Broadway Field, or playing on Wahana Field, one of the existing fields at Wahana, but it's grass and is not playable for a good part of the high school softball season. So it wasn't a great. They didn't have a great option to choose from. But I think it's important that the board knows and that our staff knows we're starting to kind of figure out how that will look for us. The other thing that we learned today was that the construction timeline is such that they're hoping to actually move the Hirsch family training facility in the winter months, if possible, and so that facility would be open and available for folks come spring during baseball and softball season, and then tackle the rest of the softball field relocation project after softball ends, with the goal of playing softball in the new field location in spring 2025. So some clarity on those details were given at the meeting that I attended today. But
just curious, was it discussed at all letting baseball play at Wahana and having softball play here?
there was 3 proposals presented, and that wasn't one of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
There was lots of discussion at the school district meeting, so we didn't really, that was our commentary. It had more to do with the communication between our entities in planning for projects. But there was lots of community contribution during that during the school district, and they heard loud and clear that there are lots of unhappy softball players and parents and so forth. It's not a great situation at all. So, yeah. But
we didn't propose other locations. That wasn't what our agenda was there.
No, I wasn't suggesting it was. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, the idea, this is a former contractor. I have moved jacked up buildings and moved them in the wintertime. Just houses, not a batting cage. And, it's kind of alarming to me to hear that they intend to do it during the winter months, considering the forecast for the weather with an El Nino winter. But, there's quite a bit of risk of lifting that building up and putting it on the type of cribbing they'll do with the hydraulics and the mobile kind of structures they'll use. That, if we get high winds, that building will rock and roll. I guarantee it.
I don't know that I've ever
That's risky.
heard or asked the answer to this question, but when they move the building, what happens if they break the building?
That's what insurance is all
The
about.
insurance
Yeah.
for the contractor pays for it.
Isn't that why they couldn't get the insurance?
Waiting till the winter
That's
is,
why
that's a double. Anyway, that's alarming to me, just for the sake of seaside kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I think part of our role in it though is we're not owner of that building, nor are we owner of the property that that building sits on. We are designated manager of the facility, at least that's how I understand it. And so I think what we should be asking questions about is things that will impact our management of the facility, of the use of the facility, because that's really our role concerning that particular
Well,
building.
sure it is, yeah. I appreciate that, I can understand that. But I think the school district should be concerned, since they have priority for use of that building, even though Seaside Kids owns it.
Yep.
Can we just buy the field from the school district? I mean, this is so uncomfortable for me because there's so many property owners, each with their own vision and mission and what they want to do. And it would seem to be a lot easier if we just consolidated it into one property, whoever owns it, one property, and take a lot of these questions away. Then our IGA is like, how will we support the school district in their team sports?
I think that's a discussion.
Well, I think,
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead, Skylar.
Oh, I think that's a discussion that the board maybe should have or should be contemplating. I think that was one reason why the school district, previously there had been 3 parties in the IGA,
Right.
city,
Mm-hmm.
and the school district worked to remove the city, or the city didn't, necessarily want to be a part of the Broadway Field
Mm-hmm.
IGA anymore. I shared with the board, not necessarily for confusion, not necessarily the same reasons, but I can see your perspective that this is a heavy lift right now, and part of me thinks that we have other things that maybe we should be focusing on, and also I traditionally value partnership with organizations and other agencies, other government agencies that I feel like are supportive of our mission and want to be good partners with us. And just to be frank, the relationship that we have with the school district right now over this issue is strained, and I think it's causing both parties probably a significant investment and heavy lift. And so anyways, those are my thoughts. That's just Skylar, Executive Director. Celeste has been really involved, and I'm super thankful for her insight and support. She might have a different perspective.
Well, it just seems,
Yeah,
it seems discontinuous, it seems like it's so fragmented, it's kind of hard to, I get it.
Yeah, it's a project with a lot of moving parts, and our schools have a lot of their own really heavy lift to do with school start. There's a lot of pieces going on here, and I guess I'm sort of a benefit of the doubt person, and I would prefer to operate from the standpoint that we all want to have this better, we agreed to have this better centralized facility for use by our youth in our community, and
And I think we need to streamline communications and ask for what we need out of this. We need to, what I'm learning is that we just have to be very clear about what we need, very concrete. And so examples of this, one of the things we're asking for is we need clarity and advanced communication regarding site access once construction begins, because we can't have contractors parking wherever they will, because we have young people that are out there. It could cause a risk, so we need to have advance notice. So we're just stating that very clearly. We're providing action items of what we need to have happen, and to the extent possible, try to get them into the IGA so it's in writing. I think that, buying the field or whatever, I don't know that that's necessarily in our best interest in the long term. Like, that seems like the easy thing right now. But I think once we get through this hurdle and get the IGA done and move, get the field finished, I think we'll be in a good place.
Yeah, and I wasn't suggesting we do it, next week, but, maybe over time we can remove some of these geopolitical boundaries that seem to kind of rub up against us when we try to get something done.
Yeah.
I shared, in one of our letters to the school board, I shared a statement that I felt like rung true to me, and having grown up here, but then having to be back and be on this side of life. And I think it's important to note that we, in our community, we have, I think, a strong history or tradition of entities working together in partnership and volunteerism to have things, events or facilities or programs, or, if you think about some of the things that Seaside is known for, those are bigger than our town size, our population would suggest that we're capable of having. And I think it's because of, like I said, that spirit of volunteerism and the spirit of collaboration that exists here, and it's really strong. And I still think that there's opportunity for that here. I don't think that ship has sailed so far away that we can't get it right or get it back on track. But I think the downside of that collaboration is that when the relationship is not as strong as you'd like it to be for whatever reason, then it is hard to make the things work together, and it does get really fragmented. So I'm a believer in opportunities and collaborating and working together, and I think this will be, I still have a vision for Broadway Field that it will be a really special and awesome place once this project is completed and once we're working together, I think, at a higher level. Right now, I think we're running through some mud, as the cross-country runners would say. We're kind of going through some
But it's pretty awesome right now. I know it's not finished yet, but geez, the work they did last summer was pretty spectacular.
Yeah. Anyways, the only other thing that I would add, and Celeste, feel free to jump in, is that we have communicated our timeline that you all discussed at the September 6th meeting with the school district. We sent them the revised IGA and shared the timeline, and I believe they have some discussion still to come on their end.
Is this the revised site?
It is.
Okay.
So I don't have a signed copy back yet, but I hope that that's coming, and if it doesn't come by, I think it was the October 4th date that you shared. Maybe it was the 6th. Yeah. Then we'll proceed as the board instructed, and I don't think necessarily anything changes so much, but I do am thankful that we have a timeline established. Celeste, anything on that part of it? Okay.
She's muted.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. I don't think so, no. I think I think we proceed, and we may be operating for a bit of time without an IGA in place. And it is what it is.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions, or shall we move to next part of our meeting?
But just ever so, I'm sorry. ever so briefly. So October 4th or 6th or whatever comes, and the school district is unable to deliver a contract by that time for whatever reason. Then we're without an agreement. And then how much authority is the board giving Skylar to work out handshake agreements with the school district or the city to keep things going until we have an IGA in place?
I thought we discussed, maintaining and providing services on the field at a price established by staff.
Yeah, we've shared that,
Yeah.
that timeline with the school district, and, it included the hourly rate, that will be,
It hasn't, no, don't worry about it.
not
If
what-
I can hear Skylar.
Also, the IGA doesn't cover every single thing, just to remember, we do things with other community members and we don't have an IGA with them. So there's negotiation, like daily negotiations about using field space and so forth. So I would say that type of thing would move ahead.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, moving on. Chris, I think we can say goodbye to Chris, right?
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Chris.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Okay, I believe the next item is daycare park. Is that the next item?
Yeah,
Sorry.
yep, new
So
business.
I want to just introduce it, and then Darren's going to actually do the book of the presentation. So we made some really cool improvements and park space in between the SRC and what we refer to as the West Wing, or in between SRC and the youth center.
Which is owned by the city, correct?
Correct.
But we did the improvements.
We did. So-
I,
One thing on this.
So we're doing
I cannot
improvements
hear.
on somebody else's
Does
assets?
that sound from that?
Yes.
Exactly.
Right.
That's the spirit.
The microphone does not hear that. I have trouble hearing
okay.
the stuff that comes from that. And,
Are you
it's
picking
too
up
bad,
that
those things
feedback?
don't have captions on it. This thing here is not picking up
Oh,
that. It doesn't do it all the time. Sometimes it does, but
It looks
it's not picking up.
well, just in general though, he's saying that this, when it is working, not dead, that it doesn't pick up
I'm
the
not picking
speaker.
up Celeste, and I'm not picking up
Is
that.
there potentially like a caption?
But I'm okay.
Or, I don't know.
I'm gonna look into it.
Functioning.
I'm not really happy with this system, so
Yeah,
I'm working with Isaiah to come up with a better option.
great. Thank you, Darren. You're always on top of it. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
All right, take it away, Darren.
All right, so, like Skylar said, daycare park is that, little space, that existed between, the SRC and, our administrative offices. We've, kind of maintained that little park space for quite some time. It's a real benefit to our youth programs. Our kids are out there, utilizing that space, all the time. We'd actually originally, christened it Kennedy Park, after Craig Kennedy, our
Yeah,
former.
when are we gonna get that?
Soon.
But in the interim, the city officials decided, it settled on daycare park. But, what occurred kind of, just to give you guys a little bit of a background, and how this project came to be, Melissa Ousley, who you all, remember well, who, left us to pursue a greater job opportunity elsewhere. Before she left in October, she left in December of 2022, but in October of 2022, she had submitted a grant to the Niemeyer Foundation. Niemeyer Foundation is a grant piece that's administered through Oregon Community Foundation. We were a successful recipient of $20,000. The original idea with this project was to create a park space inside one of the atriums in the SRC. However, because of our timeline for occupancy and some of the hurdles we have to jump through, we actually sat down as an executive team and said, hey, look, we've got this $20,000. We're probably not gonna be able to get that done realistically in the timeline, that we're on. So I went ahead and I reached out to Niemeyer Foundation, talked to a really great guy named Michael Oreste. He is the grant program administrator for the Niemeyer Foundation. He works directly with their board of trustees. And so I pitched this idea that we could potentially use that $20,000 to do some improvements in Daycare Park. One of the kind of the missions or goals of the Niemeyer Foundation is to see park improvements in the state of Oregon, the creation and expansion of park spaces. So we kind of felt like it fit right into their mission and their goals. So we pitched an idea to create some ADA access improvements in that space, while still kind of trying to adhere to some of the goals that we had set out in the original presentation or the original proposal to them. So with that, one of the things that we had promised as part of that grant package was to include some picnic tables for a picnic space, a sandbox, and some sensory equipment, or elements for some of the younger children, for the infants and toddlers in our programs. And so we went ahead and pitched this idea along with doing some ADA improvements. I don't know how many of you have walked those little pathways through Daycare Park, but they have these little printed cobblestone pieces around in the walkway. And I asked Mary Blake about that. I said, well, what is the deal with the cobblestones? And she said, well, it's to keep the skaters from skating around on those pathways.
It keeps the blind people from sweeping the sidewalk with their cane.
And so she said that's what that was originally for, and I said, yeah, that's kind of what I thought. So our plan was to remove the cobblestones and actually put finished concrete across there. All of the widths of the pathways meet ADA requirements already, so we didn't actually have to go in and do any path widening. So we reached out to the city folks. I called Jeff Flory and Mike Dimmick. I said, hey, I'd like to invite you guys over. Really would like to talk to you a little bit about what we're planning on doing. So I was able to get an audience with Jeff Flory. He came out and he said, just kind of looking at what you're proposing or what you're telling me, he says, put it into a site plan, send that over to me, and I'll take a look at it. And so I followed up a few days later with a site plan. About a week and a half after that, Jeff emailed me back, said, hey, that looks fantastic. You guys are good to go. So we were able to go ahead and put together a timeline. Worked with our maintenance staff. And so they began pouring out. You can see here how they've gone in and they've kind of painted it all out. You can see how dead the grass is in here. Yeah, and you can see a lot. The kids have actually been digging over in some of those other areas, doing their own little makeshift sandboxes in those areas. You can see the cobblestone portions here. There's a couple back here. So they went in, started doing some site preparation, doing some marking out, and then brought in some gravel, did some forming. This pad back here actually is where the ADA sandbox is going to sit when it arrives. When I ordered it about 2.5 weeks ago, it had about a 10-week lag time for that piece. So in between, the guys went out and poured the concrete. And actually, Skylar and I, there was a really great picture, and I couldn't find it anywhere, of Skylar and I out there screeding concrete in the morning. It was great. It was super fun. I haven't done concrete work for a while, but it comes right back, just like riding a bicycle. So we created these improvements, put out the pad for the ADA accessible sandbox. It's a great sandbox, 8 foot wide with a 2 foot transition, so anyone in a wheelchair can pull up and transition into the sandbox.
He always puts a knee when he mentions wheelchairs.
It's because you're the fire safety guy, Kyle.
I thought I was the infirm one.
No, so in talking to Michael, with, the Niemeyer Foundation, some of the feedback he gave me, in a couple of the follow-ups that I've done, that he's been able to present to, the board of trustees, he said, you know, Aaron, one of the things the board really, really loved about this project, was the inclusion of the ADA improvements. You know, that's something that they like to see in all of their projects. So, so we went ahead, we, about a month and a half ago, we ordered the, picnic tables, and you can see them here. We have 3 ADA accessible, picnic tables, so if anybody in a wheelchair can actually pull up on one side of it. We got them oriented so that folks have, you know, some turning space, and so it's accessible. So either wheelchair or mobility scooter folks can have access to those picnic tables.
Are they concrete?
They are concrete, 860 pounds apiece, so those are not going to go anywhere. It took 3 people to lift the top. And get that in place. So they are super heavy. But yeah, when we sat down and we talked about equipment, we wanted something that was going to be more impervious to our elements. You know, we could have gone with cheaper with wooden picnic tables, but they certainly wouldn't have lasted as long and would have been probably a lot more mobile with our some of our folks. So so you can see the guys have actually come in and laid topsoil and finish this area. They were able to also get in an underground sprinkler system and tie it into the current system that we have. So I'm happy to report that functions amazingly. One of the other elements that we added was an ADA accessible ramp into the play area. That's something that didn't exist before. Our original idea was to connect to the play structure itself and bring a ramp out to the sidewalk. However, in working with Game Time, the folks that built that original system said, yeah, we don't have anything you know, prefab that would hook up to that and make that happen. But she kind of suggested to me, she said what a lot of folks do is create a concrete ramp down into the play area. And we already knew that we were a little short on fill material, that needed to be brought up, so it actually worked out perfectly. So they could still pull up to the play equipment. The play equipment already has with it the necessary equipment for transition. So they can transition from a wheelchair or mobility scooter onto that low platform and make their way up into the play structure. So it was originally designed with that in mind. So the guys came in also and put some French drains into this area. We've always had sort of a drainage issue off the side of the basketball court. So they were able to dress this area up a little bit and put some new grass in, fill and grass in the back area too. So even since I've taken those pictures, the grass is just taken off. Actually, beautiful out there. This is a picture of the ADA sandbox that we ordered. So you can see the transition platform up here. So. And then just kind of a sample of the sensor equipment. We have not ordered that yet. It will be coming very, very soon. It's kind of a little shorter turnaround time on these elements, but we'll have two. We'll have one set up for infant toddler, so it's at their height, and then for the older kids, a little taller mud kitchen. So we did relocate the daycare park sign. It used to hang up back here. Brought it out in the front, and then Levi and the guys actually created this little corner piece in here. And I understand the plan is to put in some drought resistant or drought tolerant plants in there later on, probably the first part of next year. So overall, really exciting project. And we are actually closing in on the finish of it. Really, we're ahead of our timeline by about a month. on this, which is fantastic, that we were able to get in there and get all the work done. One of the things that Niemeyer wanted to see is that we were going to finish this project up by the end of the calendar year, and we're well ahead of that, as long as the sandbox gets here. So, but yeah, no problem. We have just those last few little finishing touches, and then I'll be able to deliver our final grant report to Niemeyer. So,
How much have we spent so far?
we are at about 17,000.
Does that include staff time and overhead?
Yes, yeah, we'll probably have about 1,000 in there flex for the staff.
So what is the district contributing, the staff time to make this happen?
Yeah, that's our basic contribution to it. Yeah.
But we're being repaid for that through the grant.
Correct.
And the use of it.
And use it. Well, I mean, my problem is, you know, we're improving somebody else's property.
Yeah.
And it gets back to my statement before about, you know, there's so many different little ownership issues in this whole complex. It just makes it complicated.
Yeah, I think with this one, it's unique because of the grant, and we had this money that we wanted to spend, and we really would not have been able to make a significant impact in any of the atriums. So this was really, I think, a win-win for us. The other factor I think that motivated us is we've had some really promising discussions with the city about transferring ownership of this space and some of the other spaces that we've traditionally managed, like the skate park.
Yeah, we're gonna have to maintain it. So,
Right,
you
to
know,
SEPRD from the city, and I don't want this to sound disparaging, but they've really been absentee owners, property owners of this space for at least my whole time, and probably for 20, 30 years, going back to, you know, when the previous skate park, Wally World, was back on the basketball court area, and you know, all of these improvements with the basketball court resurfacing, with they did help us finance the playground, the new playground structure a few years ago through some Hood to Coast money. But the rest of the time, we've mowed the grass and we've watered it and we've done the other
Was
stuff.
the Rotary that did the lights?
Yeah, Rotary
Yeah.
helped us fund some lights for the basketball court to keep it lit during the dark times. Yeah, dark times, sorry. The medievals.
The dark
Yeah.
COVID.
463 to 10.
Wally World became the community gardens.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now there'll be a different pole barn that sits on.
Okay, for the next grant,
Yes.
I want to cover
Over what?
the playground.
The whole city she wants.
No,
She wants it to be
I
respectable.
want one covered playground that is not at school.
You know, we talked about covers in this grant, and just the amount of engineering that goes into those.
I'm just saying,
But, yeah.
next grant, we
You'll
get a cover.
It's called that.
The good news is I am gonna get 3 market umbrellas to kind of dress up the picnic tables. So
Okay.
that's part of the project too, so.
I still have a couple of questions.
Sure.
And I like those picnic tables, the heavy duty, they seem indestructible. But is that, you know, I know it's probably high compression cement, concrete, but are you able to put a sealer or a graffiti proof those things so
Yes.
they're easy to maintain?
Yes, and I've actually talked to Levi about that already.
And then
Yes.
secondly, those tables, everything, are inviting to people at night walking by. And do we have lighting and illumination in that's appropriate for that space?
Maybe at another step, I know we have lighting along
Maybe the city could provide us
we have lighting along the corners of the buildings, which, you know, we try to.
And there is some street lighting that illuminates into that part of the park.
Yeah.
Well, that's not obscured, I mean, there's no tree cover right there, so it's pretty visible from the street.
It's pretty wide open, and, my admin, network admin and I talked about some you know, the need for some cameras, exterior cameras on this corner too, because we do have some blind spots in a few areas, so, he and I actually talked earlier this week about a few areas around the district.
I think it's a great project.
looking at, putting some more security cameras in.
It looks
I think
awesome. Great.
Yeah.
It is really nice.
Yeah, and the pictures don't even really do it justice. This is all filled in green now, just with our rain over the past week, so.
I thought it was
it's really
fun, seeing it come together so quickly.
It happened fast, so
Yeah.
once we were able to really get on it, you know, we had a timeline, and we really wanted to stick to that, and we're ahead of it, so. Yeah.
I think it needs to be noted, the expertise that we have in-house, the capabilities of Darren. I mean, it's not every person. I certainly couldn't do it. I think most of us probably couldn't do it, to just come up with a site plan using, I don't know, whatever computer program you use, Darren. That was amazing. To connect with our colleagues at the city of Seaside to get approval. And then, we have the benefit of having a maintenance, a director of facilities and maintenance. He wanted to come, but it's his birthday today, so he's not here. But he's done a lot of this work in his previous, redesigned parks and laid out park plans and, irrigation systems and all of that kind of stuff. He's good. So when we say, hey, Levi, you got the green light to do something outside where he gets to dig and play in the dirt and do cool stuff, he gets really excited, and he's really skilled at it. And so his team of, the coordinator of maintenance, and then Clay, our grounds guy, they did really great work and did it really fast. So I'm thankful for Melissa for helping us get the grant, and for this team to help us move it forward really quickly once we got approval to do so. I think it's going to be an awesome space. Maybe not necessarily, we won't see the true results probably for the winter months, but in the spring and summer next year, it's going to be a really lively place where people are going to congregate and socialize and recreate, not just our kiddos, but we have a lot of other kiddos. And now that we host the Seaside School District hosts their summer meal program at the SRC, this is the channel, or the access point for almost all of those program participants. They walk right through this park. A lot of them hang out at the park before or after they get lunch. They go into the SRC cafeteria and eat, and then they come out and hang out some more. So those meeting spaces are really awesome and important for a community.
Yeah, I see, my office is right here. I see moms and kids and dads and kids all day long, even during the school year.
In the heart of Seaside.
In the heart of Seaside. So they use that space a lot, and I think the sandbox is going to bring a whole new element into that space, a whole new element of play into that space.
What?
The good news is, we get a free litter scoop with every purchase. So it's great.
Maybe we can get the cougar to come down here.
Can't even imagine. So, parents being able to sit here and watch their kids play, I think. It'll be amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe the bear will come too.
That's, yep.
Thank you, Darren.
Well,
Thanks,
thank you.
Darren.
Yeah, thank you, Darren, thank you, Levi, thank you, Courtney, all of,
And Clay,
and Clay.
who learned how to do
And
concrete.
Melissa.
Okay, and Melissa, yep. Darn Newport Aquarium.
What happened to that? What happened to the sea lion? Dead on the beach.
I'm sure it's still there.
Okay.
They don't move them anymore.
They didn't move it?
They don't move them anymore.
Okay, thanks for your patience. So just a few other items under my report. Thankfully, Carolyn and Lindsay both mentioned this, but I wanted to just talk about some improvements that we've made in the Sunset Pool recently. And just to give you a little narrative, not long, but about 14 months ago, we convened a group with high school swim team, our own swim team officials, or Mike, Coach Mike, Mary Blake, invested community member, Sue was in that group, and some of our staff, because there was a desire to do what we can to improve the competitive environment for not only the high school swim team, but for our own swim team, and also for the athletes that Coach Carolyn mentioned. She's coaching all different levels of swimmers, but some very high-level athletes, and some of them are coming from an impressive distance to learn from her. So there was a desire to improve basically two things, the scoreboard and timing system, and then the diving blocks. And I just wanted to happily share, we were able to get the scoreboard and timing system purchased in time for the high school swim team season last year. That was about an $8,000 project.
Which they fundraised for.
Yes, so the fundraising was really a collaborative effort between the swim team at the high school. They were funded by the Booster Club there, some of their own revenue or whatever they have in their account.
Pacifica project.
There was a great Pacifica project by one of our previous lifeguards called the Ninja Swim Event. We provided part of the financing. Darren, again, gonna sing his praises, but Darren went to the city of Seaside, the city of Gearhart, and the city of Cannon Beach and asked for funding during their budget process. And we've traditionally done that. Those funds have usually gone towards our scholarship fund, but we specifically wanted to accomplish this project, so we asked for funds for that. And he was successful 3 out of 3, so good job, Darren. Anyways, we reconvened the group this summer to move forward on the diving blocks. We met a fundraising gap that we had, which wasn't much, and happy to share that we purchased the diving blocks last week. They're en route or in process to be en route, and we will install them during the shutdown. I know those don't look like significantly advanced pieces of equipment, but for 6 diving blocks, the cost was around $30,000. So, but it will significantly improve the competitive environment, and it's great to have this collaborative effort. And I spoke to kind of this. 30,000, Mike.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at this thing.
Transcribe.
It says 46 diving blocks.
Oh, no, just 6. 46. We need a bigger pool. So yeah, happy for that to go forward. So just wanted to share that. Again, diving blocks aren't there yet. If you are in the pool, you'll notice the timing system and the scoreboard. And as we get a little more information about the high school swim meets, we will invite the board to come and check out that environment, because it's pretty fun, and you get to see our pool showing off in a different way than you might for a fitness class or for open swim or swim lessons.
Bring your earplugs.
Yes, and it is very loud. Wanted to also just share, moving on to item C, about our shutdown plans. So we've kind of honed in over the last month or so on shutdown. Had potentially planned on a 3-week shutdown, but I'm happy to share it will be a little less than 2 weeks. So we'll begin shutdown after we close on October 28th, which is a Saturday, and the pool will reopen on November 13th at 5:45 a.m., which is a Monday. So 2 full weeks, Monday through Friday, and then the weekend surrounding. There's a few projects that will be taken on. The biggest project that we budgeted for and are actually already done some of the purchasing for them, but we'll install 3 HVAC units in the men's and women's locker rooms and in the lobby. If you've been with us for a period of time, you know that those are units that have been very hard to service and hard to keep up, especially in the winter. So these units will obviously provide for more comfort during the winter. They also have air conditioning as a feature and dehumidifiers, which is nice for the lobby and for the locker room.
That's our property, right?
Yeah.
Kyle. Kyle's on the move.
Yes, we'll also be installing the diving blocks on our property. And doing some other general maintenance, deep cleaning our fitness rooms, locker rooms, pool decks, scrub and power wash, exterior of the building and walkways, and just other general pool mechanical improvements. We don't drain the larger 2 bodies of water, but we'll probably drain the hot tub and do everything we can to make the pool sparkly and nice, because when you operate for the number of days that we do, sometimes there's things that we can't get to in the work week or in the work day, but this will give us an opportunity to get some of those larger projects
On our property.
on our property. I'm just gonna, every sentence is gonna end.
I don't think you're gonna live that down, Kyle.
I'm proud of it. I'll keep saying it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it is just kind of one.
Kyle?
Community.
We agree, yes. Wanted to just share, you may have seen, but there's been some good updates, I think, for our goals. We're 2/3 of the way completed at the end of August, so I have identified a firm, made contact with that firm. I have invited them to present at the October meeting. This is in regards to systems development charges. So this is not to say that we're moving forward with this. This is an informational presentation for them to share, for you all to come with your perspectives and your great questions that you always have. And I appreciate that, and they will too, I'm sure. Number two, we did execute the contract with Strategies 360. I had a kickoff meeting with them. We have another meeting scheduled in a week or so, and I think there's some really good momentum. I feel confident that we have some really educated and informed perspectives from that group that will help us identify a path to move forward. Number four, some other updates. We had a meet and greet last week on Friday. We did not have very great participation, I think we can say, right, Mike?
Needless to say.
Yeah, but we're going to continue those. We may take a little break for a month or two, like we did previously, and probably try some different marketing channels to encourage participation. Not sure where we're missing the mark, but it's obvious that there's more people out there that could come than have been coming.
We've done in the morning, correct?
We have.
So maybe in the evening?
Yes, I think that's a great idea. Yeah. Sorry, I had a hole in my throat. A couple other strategies I think maybe are relevant for this. I've started authoring a weekly column again in the Signal. If you saw the Signal from a couple weeks ago, I had a column about the Seaside Farmers Market. So I'll write another column
I
here
have not seen that.
shortly. Okay.
Wish you copied me on what you write, because I don't see the signal.
Well,
I never know when it's a new paper.
Yeah, I wrote it honestly about a month before it got published, so I'm not sure exactly.
Oh, okay.
As you all probably know, RJ, the local writer, is no longer with the Signal. And so I don't know if they have as strong of a South County presence as.
If I still have it.
I don't see any presence.
Yeah.
If I still have it, I'll get it to you.
Yeah, I'd like to see it. But I'm very out of touch with the soup papers.
I get the papers.
We're
So you
also
can read.
gonna reinstate a printed program guide in 2024, in the first part of 2024. That's something that we had done 3 times a year for probably a long, long time, and we're bringing back a little bit because I think for lots of reasons, marketing purposes, obviously, getting the word out about our programs, but internally it helps us all be a little more coordinated and organized, make sure that our staff knows exactly what's going on and when things are happening. And so I'll have a director's message at the beginning of that with my shiny large face attached.
So I'd like to unpack that shiny large face at some point in the future, but for right now.
Large, but not deep.
So who's the intended audience for the program?
So traditionally, we've sent it to all of the folks that reside. We haven't just sent it to district residents, have we?
Yes, it's
Just
everybody that
district-
resides in our district boundaries, yeah.
I thought we talked about we weren't gonna mail it this time. We were just gonna have it available in the lobby.
Yes, yeah, because they didn't budget for mailing this time
And
around.
it's expensive.
But we are going to do, I think, more to broadcast it out in an inexpensive method.
Can we post some of those in Warrenton City Hall and
Yes.
City Hall?
Yeah. When we had been printing it, my tradition was to take a program guide and mail it to every elected official in Deerheart, Warrenton, and Cannon Beach with a little note that said, this is what we have going on, would love to have you join us.
I think also, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it was found in the tourist, the visitor bureau.
Visitors Bureau.
Not just ours though, but like,
Local doctor's offices, dentist offices, Providence, we give them a stack and they put them out in all the waiting rooms. Yeah.
Well, and I'd like to continue taking something to the Sunset Family Fitness, because they actually expressed not understanding what the programs were. So there's, a couple of guides that are just sitting out on the tables I thought, okay, we'll do that.
Yeah, I think that's great.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think that, I know why we went away from it, costs and COVID and all of that, but it's such a valuable tool, I think, for communicating with our community. And you're the one that makes it, right, usually, Darren?
I was.
You were, you're not doing it this time?
I have Ross helping me with it.
Okay, well, I was just gonna say that you did such a great job, with the layout and the picture, like, it was very inviting and welcoming to our district. So I am positive that that will continue with your tutelage.
Yeah. The only other, I think, really relevant goal that I wanted to draw out was number 10. We have made some really great progress. I know you don't always think of recruitment and retention when you think of required staff trainings, but I think having those trainings in place protects the district, and it helps educate and train our staff to be more professional, understand maybe blind spots that they might have. So all staff were required to complete trainings in diversity, sexual harassment prevention, and one other training, and we had an over 95% completion rate. I'm really happy, and that was just by the deadline. We're still working with those stragglers as they're no, but so really happy about the progress we've made, and we continue to try to make some efforts to recognize staff, bring out the positive stuff. I can bear witness that having an HR person who's clued in or tuned into our workplace culture and the needs of our employees and heading off things and encouraging healthy conversations to occur, that's been really beneficial for me, for my time, and for our district as a whole. So I'm thankful for that investment that we made, and also just the other improvements that we've made to try to bring up our staff culture and retain our good people that we have. Because to your point, Mike, we have really great staff, and want to try to keep them happy and engaged in the work. On to item E, just wanted to draw out a few things coming up. We have a busy next month or two with special events. The Latinx Hispanic Heritage Celebration is on October 7th. Fall Fun Fest is on the 21st. In between those two events, I'll be attending the NRPA conference. That's our National Recreation Park Association. I wasn't necessarily planning on going this year, but we're the recipient of a large grant from NRPA to improve food education programs in the district. And as one of the requirements for receiving the grant is that we have a staff member attend a one-day workshop at the NRPA conference. So
Take your,
my straw was drawn. Or dropped maybe.
Yep.
But I'm excited. I've been to Dallas once, and
Dallas once.
wasn't excited about going back, but I will go.
It's flat there.
It's flat. ORPA is coming up really quickly, November 6th through 8th in Portland, and I noted our October meeting date of October 24th on here as well. There's other events coming up. As you will recall, we have a busy Thanksgiving type season with two large events on Thanksgiving Day, our turkey trot and premium Thanksgiving meal. So it's a busy time of year, even though the days are getting shorter and there's lots of other stuff to do. I think we've successfully transitioned from a successful and busy summer season to fall. Tomorrow, I didn't note this on here, tomorrow is our last scheduled farmers market. We're a little bit worried about the weather right now. And if we have, I think, 5 vendors or more, we'll hold the market, but we're not sure if we'll get 5 tomorrow.
Maybe you better cancel the band.
Luckily, I think though, from what we can tell, the weather it's going to be a little wet tonight, but hold off after about 9 or 10 a.m. tomorrow, hopefully.
knock on wood.
Yeah. That's my report.
Okay, can I make just a couple quick comments?
Please.
Super excited that we're bringing back the Latinx. That was so fantastic last year. I'm sure that it'll build. I did want to point out, not that it really matters, but the Fall Fun Fest is also on the same day as the Warrenton one. So, just
Same
here, I think theirs is a little bit earlier, but you may be in competition a little bit.
Yeah, we have it's hard here, the SDDA, the downtown group, hosts their Halloween event on the Saturday preceding Halloween traditionally, so that's on the 28th this year, and so we try to not compete with them. But I have had a lot of people say, well, that's this night or that's that night, and I'm like,
I'm not saying that's
No,
a bad thing.
I know, it's just,
I'm just letting you know that
it's good to
that's
have options, I guess.
out there.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Skylar. Board comment, Celeste.
Yeah, I think we just have a lot going on and super excited. It was great to hear the update about the strategic plan and hope that can move forward. And I think at this point, I feel like we have a drumbeat going on all the other things. So thanks, Skylar, for being the lead drummer.
Thanks, Celeste. Kyle.
Okay, so, Mackenzie, that was an awesome description that you gave about, how good Mackenzie has been for the district. And Lindsay and Carolyn, the presentation about the pool, that's really valuable. I would like to thank the Niemeyers for funding, somebody else's park. Because it will bring honor to the city and to us, and it'll be a nice place. So I appreciate their contributions.
You better go get lots of use out of that.
And I'll have a picnic on the picnic table. And Sue can maybe flow some more details, but on Saturday there's a disaster preparedness seminar at Camp Riley, and from what I've seen so far, it's going to be really, really useful. So if there's a way that you can make it up there on Saturday and go through the booths and get some information, I think it'll be done.
11 to 2.
11 to 2, thank you.
Where is that?
But I have to be there at 10,
I
right?
wait till my turn. Just that's one of the things.
Show your thunder.
No. No, you've got.
All right.
I'm finished, thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Sue.
So my gratitude, I have a personal situation with my family that means that I am not going to be around as much in any capacity. I may actually take a hotel room or a rental up in Portland, so I may not be visible. I still live here, at least for now. So I want to. I talked to Skylar today. I'm totally exhausted from racing back and forth. My sister is still alive. This weekend was very dangerous and nip and tuck, and she has survived, and she got home. I thought, silly me, I thought I had September to not worry, and boy, that's where God is laughing at me for making plans. So I'm very grateful for the fact that I spent the day doing the education, and I am exhausted, but I am so grateful for the expertise that is in this room and the people that run this system, that I just need to kind of just keep abreast of how well things are going. And so Carolyn, I have spoken her accolades before with those 5 kids that went to zones, and if there's a way to resurrect a North Coast Swim Club, there's a lot of interest, and some people that have that are on the fringes with our pool are expressing interest about that. So I think there's a way to bring people, a community of people together that we may not have really expected. That's exciting. I appreciate everything that Darren does in every capacity, and all this, with the park, no matter whose land it's on, as well as his infamous computer skills and helping me with every capacity to keep that going. I'm also grateful for Levi and his team with Clay and Courtney, and I've watched them playing out in the dirt, if you will, and I thought how exciting to have you know, such talent right here. And I want to reiterate that this Saturday is the disaster. I mean, September is a readiness month for disaster. And we have, you know, a forest behind us and an ocean in front of us. We need to be prepared for all those activities that could come with an earthquake, et cetera. So from 11 to 2 on Saturday, the county has put together a group, and I will try to get my handouts where they need to be, that include some incredible speakers. If you want to know how to take care of your animal during a disaster, at 11 o'clock, our START leader, Bob Kroll, a veterinarian, retired extraordinaire, he will be doing a talk about how to manage taking care of your animals and what to do. Have you ever thought that maybe you have to identify your dog? Because, no, that lab's mine. That happens. So there's things that you need to know about.
They would never claim my lab.
No, but see, that's the point, you know, people out there are like, no, that's my German Shepherd. No, she's mine. Well, you don't have a chip reader that works when the power's out. So you can't prove that's my dog. And anyway, and the dog, you know, anyway, there's a lot of excitement. Red Cross will be there with a tent. How do you put this up? How do you provide shelter? So yes, I'm wearing my CERT hat along with Kyle. Please, you know, 11 to 2. It is an exciting place. You've got Cannon Beach, you've got Warrenton, you've got the community of county responders that are there. And then an event that's not been talked about a lot on the 19th, which is a Thursday, 10/19 at 10/19. That is our Great American Shakeout. If you have not received something from the earthquake survival program, this is a national event that you get to register for individually, and talk to me if you need that. But the program it's literally any day you want to do it, because if you are inconvenienced by what's happening at 10/19 on the 19th, you can do it whenever you want, but do something so that you have a family preparedness event, and you know what to do and how to do it and where to go. And I think, unfortunately, Lahaina is a cautionary tale in Maui, and I'm very sorry for their loss, but I hope that we can learn from that. Our county officials, our city officials, and our businesses, that we can look to protect our people. So in that respect, I just want to say thank you, Skylar. I appreciate you heralding and leading this team and helping me along when, you know, it's been a little bit tough. I want to also say, I know Sunset Recreation is a safe building, and anyone who does not think so doesn't have all the facts. So we would never put our children in harm's way, and we are moving ahead to make progress and make things better. And that's an exciting future for our district as we remember our mission and vision statement to play. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. Mike?
Good. I thought it was a great staff presentation today. It was very interesting to meet Carolyn, and you know, the commitment to aquatics that Lindsay and Carolyn share is really great for the district and great for the community. I was curious, I had a question about what, you know, how much the private swim lessons cost and how we administrate that. I noticed, you know, with the swimmers coming from Portland, is it free, is it in district, out of district, is she charging for private lessons, or how does that work? But I'm also interested in the RPA conference.
Sure.
In November.
Do we need to register in advance for that?
Yes.
Because you can register me.
I'm sorry I missed the training today.
You both want to go to the conference?
I'll go to the ORP.
Full time?
Or like
both
two
days.
online.
Okay.
Well, I haven't seen a syllabus yet, so I'm really not sure what days.
Let me send it to you. We gotta probably move quickly, because I think registration is
Almost up.
closing. And I know the hotel block is getting close to being full too.
Well, I have my own hotel, so you don't need to worry about that. No, I'm in my own room.
I was gonna say, your
Not a
hotel, so we'll join
Yeah.
you.
It's a vacation.
I'll send, you want information as well? Let me send it to
We'll go.
the three of you. Okay.
I will not.
And then you won't need a hotel for me, just tuition or
Okay.
whatever. Sign up fee.
Thanks, Mike. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay. It's been a good meeting, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Looking forward to, understanding that strategic plan when it's ready.
I would just like to say congratulations to Mackenzie, Miss Mackenzie. And I loved hearing from Lindsay and Carolyn. I know Lindsay's presentation had been delayed due to her active fire service, so it was great that she finally got to come. I love hearing from them. I would just, the daycare park, I think is just such a great collaboration, partnership, starting with Melissa and Darren and our entire maintenance team. I think it's going to be such a benefit to our entire community that is not just Park and Rec, for us, but just everybody will be able to go. And in the summer, I can see families sitting out there. I think that's such a great improvement. So congratulations to that. Super excited for all the events that are coming up. Yeah, I think we have a really, really fun fall coming. So thank you to Zoe and her team for leading the charge on that.
I look forward to the Latinx Fest.
I know, it was so much
I missed it
fun.
last year.
Awesome, I didn't make it last year.
I
It was a
went
lot
and
of
it
fun.
was so much fun, and just, as a parent, I try and find ways to expose my kids to different cultures and different experiences and things that are not in our norm. And in a small seaside town, that is hard to do. So I can appreciate any time we have an opportunity to experience something that is not our normal culture, and appreciate, other differences and other things. And it was so fantastic. I'm super excited about it. It's going to be great.
And it's good.
There was something else that I wanted to say, but I can't think of what it was. So with that, I'm just going to say meeting adjourned.
You're doing a nice job on that presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
I forgot to mention your
No, we have time, yes.
That was awesome.
No, we're good.
We could go another 20 minutes.
Thanks, everyone. Bye. Feel better, Celeste.
Still trying to figure out how to use
Recording
this new
stopped.
Good luck. They keep changing.